In this segment, we'll look at some of the tools and features used to remove unwanted objects. Some of the problems we'll be fixing in this segment are removing unwanted structures in a scenic image and removing power lines from an image of an antique street lamp. So in this image of a lake, there's a few man-made structures that I want to take out, and I've already duplicated the background layer and renamed it. So using the Lasso Tool, I'm going to make just kind of a general selection around about the bottom third of this. I'm actually going to be taking this particular item in two parts. Now I'm drawing around it, and then I'll stop right about here. And I've got the selection made, and going up to Edit, and then Fill Selection, and using the Content Aware, click OK, and then it removes that part of the whatever that object is. And it turned out pretty nice, so I'm going to go back to the Lasso Tool and remove the rest of it and just draw a general selection around like you see here. It doesn't have to be real precise. Go to Edit, Fill Selection, and the rest of the object is gone. Now let's look at it before and after, and that's a pretty decent removal, I think, but I do want to touch it up just a little bit. So I'll use the Clone Stamp tool and just kind of look for any duplicate patterns that may indicate that it was retouched. That is one of the negative side effects that can result from using Content Aware, is because it's reading the image information from outside the selection and then bringing it in to fill in to remove the object. Sometimes you may get a repeating pattern. You may get something that just needs a little touch up to make it look even more natural, which is what I'm doing here. And I think what I'll do is finish up by, at the water's edge, it's a little jagged just to the right of where that structure was. So I'm going to just kind of clean this up a little bit, give it a little more continuity, so that looks a little more natural, and I think I'll stay with that. Okay, well, the good news is that was the hardest object in this picture to remove. So let's go on to this one. This will be quite a bit easier, I feel certain. Using the Lasso Tool, make a selection around it, then go to Edit, Fill Selection, Content Aware, and let's deselect that, and I think that looks pretty good. It might not hurt to use the Clone Stamp tool on that. Okay, yeah, that works. So I think that turned out pretty well. Now the last item is this third structure. So using the Lasso Tool, we'll make a selection, and also you'll notice there is some reflection of it in the water, so you want to get that as well. Go to Edit, Fill Selection, Content Aware, and it disappears. So as we can see, the Content Aware Fill feature is a very useful tool for removing unwanted objects. It can really be a time saver. Now here we have an image of an old street lamp from the historic area of our downtown, and I want to take these power cables out because they really distract from the looks of this picture. So I'll create a new layer and rename it Spot Heal / Clone or something like that. You can name it whatever suits you best. And I'll start with the spot healing brush tool, and then I'll get a hard round brush about 25 pixels in diameter and make sure sample layers is ticked, or sample all layers. And then I'll essentially be using the spot healing tool to remove the majority of the wires. As I get closer to the lamp, I'll use the Clone Stamp tool for the more intricate work. So now I'll zoom in a little bit and get the spot healing brush tool, and I'll start off by making a short stroke. If you make too long of a stroke or try to cover too many of the wires at once, it'll come out distorted. So it's really better to work in short strokes like this. And just take your time, and I've kind of fast forwarded a little bit, and I'm on the right side. And let me get some of this tree branches, what little bit was there. You'll notice that I'm stopping short of the lamp because I'll use the Clone Stamp tool to work on those areas. Now quickly I'll show you why I'm not using the spot healing brush tool all the way across. When you do this, you'll get a little distortion at the edge where the lamp meets the sky, and you'd have to go back and fix it with the Clone Stamp tool. So it's easier really just to use the Clone Stamp tool to begin with. I've sped things up here, but I'll use the spot healing brush tool to get the remainder of the power cables. Now switching to the Clone Stamp tool, I'll work on the areas in and around this lamp. Now working on this finial, I'm using a hard brush about 5 pixels in diameter, and reshaping it. Yeah, that looks good. And when you're cloning out the wires against the sky, you'll want to switch to a softer brush, and it'll help it blend in better. And you'll just want to keep the brush diameter to around 5 to 7 pixels or so. And for the rest of the picture, we'll be using the clone stamp tool to get the rest of the wires that are in and around the lamp. This works a little bit more intricate. Then once you've finished, just look the picture over carefully to make sure you got all the power cables. And then click on and off, and you'll notice quite an improvement. So we can see that Photoshop Elements offers much in the way of removing unwanted objects. Now let's move on to the next segment.